If you're an analog-minded guitar player like I am, the thought of diving into an all-singing, all-dancing guitar suite plugin can sometimes feel a little bit daunting. But in this video, we're going to check out a really comprehensive guitar plugin that you don't need to be a tech expert to get great results from. We're going to be checking out the new Axiom version 2 from Blue Cat Audio. So Blue Cat Audio have been around for quite some time. I've known Guillaume from the brand for about 3 years now. We actually shot a video in 2020 on the original version of Axiom, which you can see linked in the top corner of this video. Now fast forward to 2023, he's got the new version 2 of Axiom, and this is a really great update. He's jammed a bunch of new features in there and made this already incredibly in-depth piece of software even more in-depth. This software can do everything you could possibly need from an amp suite. It's got amp sims, it's got cabs, it's got effects, it's got pedals, it's got pre and post effects. You can load in your own VSTs. You can do anything you want with this. You can even build your own guitar amp sounds because he has a module of this which allows you to combine different power amps and preamps with different cab responses and clipping responses and all sorts of other crazy complex things. Now I know what you're thinking, that might sound like a lot of information, and if you're someone like me who likes the tactile feel of a real amp and real pedals, you may be thinking, well, I don't really want to go down the rabbit hole of designing my own amp sim because that sounds quite hard to do. Now, the good thing is it's actually not that hard to do, but what we're going to do in this video is we're going to dive into Axiom version 2 and look at it from the perspective of someone like me who is analog minded, and let's see how we can get some great simple results with this plugin. So before we check out the plugin, I want to let you guys know this is a sponsored video today. So Blue Cat Audio are paying me to make this video, and they provided me with access to the new version of Axiom for the purpose of making this video as well. But as always, all the thoughts and opinions in the video are my own. So gear-wise, you're going to be hearing the Yamaha RevStar plugged into my audio interface. That's going straight into my DAW, and all the tones you're hearing then are coming from Axiom. So the first thing I'm going to do is just dive over here, and we're going to take a look at the user interface for Axiom. Now on the surface, this looks slightly complicated because it can do so much, but we can break this down into a few really simple areas. So this section here, the input, and this section here, the master, think of these as like your studio processing. So the input section is everything that you apply to your guitar signal before it hits the digital rig, which is this middle section. So think of that as like if you're in a studio, you might plug into a DI box which has got a compressor built in, or you might want to add a specific EQ to your DI guitar signal before it hits anything else. That's where you would do that kind of stuff. In the master section, this is everything that happens after your rig. So think of this as like your post-processing. Once you've got your guitar tone dialed in, what are you going to want to do to that to sit it in the mix? Again, it could be a compressor, it could be an EQ, whatever you typically do in the mix stage. Everything else lives here in the middle. You can also use the input stage for things like gates. I think this is a really good place to put like noise gates and things like that as well. The middle section is our rig then. So we've got our pre-effects, our amp section, and our post-effects. So the pre-effects are where we put things like our drives, our boosts, our fuzzes. The post-effects is kind of like your effects loop, so that's where you put your reverbs, your delays, your modulations, and so on. In the middle then we have the amp. So the amp section shows you a default view, but then we can go deeper with the tone map and with the amp editor, which we'll go into later on in the video. First thing I'm going to show you is just how easy it is to get started. So in this current state, the default mode, it's literally just going to give you a completely dry sound. That's a real no bells and whistles clean tone there. Now up here we have preset browser. Now this is kind of important because there are two different preset browsers we can access from this screen. We've got the amp preset browser. In here we have all of our different amp types. So they're bundled by different subcategories. So we've got some bass amps with bite, bass amps with drive. Then we've got guitar clean, crunch, drive, high gain, legends, which is sort of based on classic guitar tones from our favorite players. Then we have this section here, classic amps. Now think of the classic amp section as being the choice of amps available. So nothing in here is named exactly what the real thing is for copyright reasons, but you can pretty much get the idea by the name. So AC Crunch, you can pretty much guess is going to be like an AC30. B-Face Lux is going to be a Blackface Deluxe. B-Man Tweed is going to be a Bassman Tweed. Obviously you get the idea there, you know, a high watt is going to be a high watt. It's pretty much just gone with the same name there, but with a different spelling. Brit 800 is going to be a JCM 800. You get the idea there. So we can choose our amps there, or we can come up here to this preset browser, and this is more entire rig presets. So in here we've got the Legends preset, which would be entire rig presets for specific guitar tones. Like Ain't Talking About Eruption, you can kind of guess what that's going to be. Same thing goes in the clean section. We've got all these different clean presets: Jazz Gig, Lux Verb, Clean Stack, British Tweed. Coming to high gain, we've got California Lead, Boosted California Room, Pedal Speaker, Old Mesa Lead Mod. Everything's kind of put together with entire rig presets in that mode. What we're going to be focusing on is the easy mode. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to click this button here for easy mode, and it's going to show this screen. Now this is a simplified version of my rig. Now this is literally just the amp, because that's the only thing I've got selected. So I'm going to go and press the next button here. I'm just going to go to this preset here, which is called Default Rig. This rig will be included as a preset in your own Blue Cat download as well. So this is just a standard rig that has been built in. Now obviously you can tweak this, but this is really how easy this is to get started with. So in this screen, I can turn all the pedals on and off by clicking like so. I can manipulate the amp by clicking and moving the controls. And if I want to change what each pedal does, I can come into the pedal by clicking this, and then I've got access to all the controls of that. But if you don't want to spend too much time tweaking, go into easy mode. Now we have some really simplified controls. So I can still manipulate the amp, which is this. It's got some reverb on it. And down here I have a pedal board. So I can literally turn the effects on and off just by clicking these buttons. And then here you can see the preset has got a few controls that are sort of highlighted. So for instance, I've got a drive control. If I'm in regular mode and I go into my overdrive, I've got a few different options there. The drive control has kind of been added here as like a hot control. So when I'm playing with my overdrive on, I can use this control to add drive. So it really kind of removes the need to spend too much time tweaking. Easy mode is a great way for someone who is not really that comfortable with amp sims to start playing around and actually getting some different sounds. So in here we've got a bunch of different things. There's an EQ, there's a compressor, there's a vibrato. So I'm just going to play a little bit and just turn some of these on and off so you can hear what they all do. So that is as easy as it is to change between different effects. Now, when we're using presets, obviously we can choose different presets and that will give us different rigs. So I'm just going to go and click some of the Legends presets now. I'm just going to click on a few of these and hear some of those sounds. So we've got Ain't Talking About Eruption. This is going to be like an EVH kind of thing. Now you can see that's completely changed. So my rig now is obviously a Marshall style amp with a gate, a phaser, and an arena reverb. also got presets from loads of other kind of legendary tones as well. So we've got Email in a Bottle. That's going to be like an Andy Summers Message in a Bottle kind of thing. So nice kind of clean there with chorus. And you can see again the only options now are chorus and reverb. In the main window, obviously the rigs can look more complex because we've got all the options available to us. But this is perfect for people who don't want to spend too much time tweaking. They just want a really good, solid sound. We've also got, in the Legends section, let's go for Purple Lady Rhythm. That's like a Purple Haze kind of vibe. Kind of that crunchy Hendrixy kind of thing. We've got Steve and Lenny. That's going to be a Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of vibe. Obviously, I know Stevie didn't play that on P90, so it's not going to sound exactly right because I'm not using the right guitar for that. We've also got, what else have we got here? Sultans of Silk, that's going to be like a Dire Straits kind of thing. Whole Lot of Solo, I love this preset. This is like a Jimmy Page kind of Whole Lot of Love thing. That's always been one of my favourite kind of lead tones, so I really like that one. It's quite fun sounding. Then obviously there's a bunch of other presets as well. So if we come into Crunch, for instance, we've got a Blue Drive Amp. That's going to be like a kind of Fender-y type thing, I guess. We've also got, let's look at some clean presets. We've got British Country. It's kind of like a Silver Jubilee sort of vibe by the looks of things. We've got crunch and effects. We've got, let's go for like late filters. Let's look at something a bit crazier. That's like an echo with some sort of paddy reverb sounds going on there. I mean, you can see just by looking at this, there's a ton of different presets that you can choose from. And like I said, the cool thing is if you just want to get started and just have some great sounds without spending too much time tweaking, easy mode is definitely the way to go. Let's look at another one. Let's look at the guitar piezo, and we'll go for acoustic ensemble. So this is cool because it's got an acoustic simulator built in. So some of these are a little quiet, like obviously that's quite a quiet one, so you might want to turn the volume up a bit. Got a couple of different acoustic ones actually. There's a bunch of different ones there. Some are kind of acoustics in the sort of typical mic sound sense, or like a DI sound, and others like this one for instance are kind of acoustics with effects added. Basically have a preset for anything you need. There's a bunch of bass presets. You name it, it's there. There's even some shimmer verb presets which have some really cool sort of pad sounds. Those are obviously really useful if you're getting into sound design or you want to create some crazy stuff that way. So I want to talk to you very briefly about the Amp Designer module. Now, you're probably not going to want to do too much of this if you're someone who's just looking to, get some easy sounds, but this is also something that's worth knowing because you can do some quite cool stuff with it. So I'm just going to pick a custom blues crunch. That sounds like the sort of tone that is just a nice kind of platform to build on. So yeah, pretty standard bluesy crunch tone there from a Fender style amp. Now, if we go into this mode here, so click this E, it opens up the amp editor mode. This is kind of a separate module that Blue Cat called Destructor. Now what this is your amp sound broken down into 3 different sections. So we've got an input gate and compressor here. So obviously you can adjust that accordingly to whatever you want. And we have 3 different sections here for the amp. So we have the preamp, the destruction section, which is how the overdrive and distortion section works, and then the post filter, which is your cabs. So in the preamp, we can go again into presets. We can choose some basic presets. There's some obviously classic ones, so we could go for like an AC style preset, either big, bright, flat, or low, bright, small. You can see they're all kind of grouped into amp type. A couple of different tweed ones there. There's some blackface deluxe ones there. If we go into modern heads, we've got some Engel styles, some Californias, which are like your mess boogies, some Soldano style. Typical, we've just got some standard sort of tone profiles. Vintage heads, we've got some Brit 45, Brit 45 Bright, Brit 800, Brit Plexi 59. Basically anything you can think of, he's sort of grouped into the correct categories there. And you can choose your preamp accordingly. You can also use this built-in EQ here. So to do that, I just click this E here for easy mode, and it kind of takes it into advanced mode. And now I've got all these different things I can kind of add and take away. This is the sort of the tonal profile of the preamp, as it were. Because your preamp is responsible for the bass, middle, and treble, and then you're telling it how much gain to take from this section. In this section, I can determine how much gain I want on tap. So again, I've got presets here. We've got all sorts of different presets that cover a range of different sounds and sort of styles, or I can literally just tweak what's already here. The mix is how much of the clean versus overdriven sound you get. The dynamics is how compressed that drive sound is, and then the drive and gain is how much range you're going to give to that gain knob up here. So if I crank the gain here, I'm feeding more into this. So if this is on 10, really hard clipping, but if I dial this back here, I'm actually having less sort of distortion fed into the preamp. So even the preamp gain is cranked, it changes the response to that. Now you can hear when that's cranked, it's very kind of harsh because it's quite a hard clipping. Now we can obviously tweak that to our taste. In here, in edit mode, we can literally shape how we want that distortion to go. Now this is where it gets a bit more complicated because we can really kind of shape the whole waveform of how that's going to react. Then we have the post filter, and this is our cab sim. So in the default easy mode, we've just got an EQ basically and a sort of an output gain. And then you've got presets for all the different cab types. So you've got some standard ones, and then we go into bass cabs, and guitar cabs is probably where most of you are going to be living. So it's going to be 112. We've got a bunch of options that sort of match specific amp types. So like an AC cab, for instance, or a blackface cab. 212s, we've got the same sort of thing. 412s, these are obviously geared more towards the higher gain and sort of stack-based sounds. And we've got combos. So I'm currently set to a combo one because the amp I'm playing is typically a combo amp. But I could run that into a 4x12 plexi cab. And it's going to change how that reacts as well. Then there's obviously just a bunch of standard ones like a 1x8 mini tweed. I can choose whatever cab type I want there, or I can open up the edit mode and I can create my own cabs. So I could literally create my own cab response with all the features here. You can also load in your own IRs, which is quite cool. Same with this section. If I literally put this in the most complicated mode, I can literally create my own guitar amp with that. So we're not going to do that in this video, but it is a really cool feature that this program has. So if you do decide to go down that rabbit hole, you can. So another cool thing you can do with this is you can use what's called the tone map. And this is a really cool feature that allows you to basically blend between a bunch of different presets to find your ideal amp tone. So I'm just going to come and pick a standard clean preset. So I'm just going to go for this preset. Just a pretty stock clean tone there. Then I'm going to open up the tone map And I'm just going to click this button here just to clear the tone map. So there's nothing on there right now. What the tone map allows me to do is it allows me to add different amp types and different presets, and then move that cursor in the middle to morph between all of the presets that I choose. And what that does is it manipulates the back end of the plugin in real time, so I can come up with sort of a hybrid tones between different amps. So I'll show you what I mean. If I go into presets, I'm just going to go for classic guitar amps, okay, because they're always good reference points. I can either add each amp individually, so I could just pick 2 or 3 that I wanted, or I can click this here and add all the presets. Now, let me just move these plugin windows so you can see everything clearly. If I click that middle point, if I click on basically like a preset, it's just going to load that preset for me. So I've now chosen Bassman Tweed 410 drive. So let's just say that's my kind of style. And I want to change that, but I don't really know how to change that. What I can do is I can play. And you'll notice there, even just with that little move, it changed the tone quite a lot. And you'll notice as I moved the cursor closer to different presets, the visual window actually changed what I was selected. So actually the amp type changed. Now, this is really cool because I could come up with different hybrids. So I can zoom in here. Let's say I know I like this Tweed amp sound, and I know I like this Plexi sound. But what if I wanted kind of a blend of the two? I can literally find a point between these two presets that I like. So let's go straight in the middle. That could be my sound. That could be a sound then that I like. I can obviously go more extreme with that. I can literally just move this around. You can basically find your dream sounds really without needing to even scroll through all the presets. You just move this around and find what kind of amp sounds you like. So that's a really useful thing to do. Now you can also do this with more specific things as well. So I could literally go through all the clean presets if I wanted to. So if I'm looking for my ideal clean tone, the same thing. You can zoom in as well and see things in more detail, because obviously when there's a lot of them together, the view can get quite cluttered, so you can zoom in if you need to. Or I could do this with guitar pedals. If I wanted to try out different guitar pedals, I can do that. Really, really useful feature that allows you to try out a bunch of different things very, very quickly. And then the other really cool thing that you can do with Axiom is you can use this plugin at the front end, which sits in the utilities, called Re-Guitar. And this is a plugin that I really, really like, because what this does is this takes the signal that you feed in and it creates a new pickup sound. So I'm using a guitar with P90s right now, which are obviously a type of single coil. So in Re-Guitar, I have humbucker, single coil bright, or piezo pickup as my input. And then I can turn that into a bunch of different single coils, humbuckers, acoustics, or I can use their tone map to kind of go between all the different electric pickups or all the different acoustic types. With the electric pickups, obviously it's different simulated pickup sounds, and then with the acoustic, it's different body types. So I'm already on single coil with a clean tone. That's turning this now into a hot single coil. So if I turn this off, that's my guitar, and that's Axiom changing the pickup sound. I could go to a telly style pickup. Or I could go to a neck and middle single coil. Or a bridge and middle. P90J. You can even just change the sound of your existing P90. Where this obviously really comes into use is when I start turning it into other things like a humbucker. So if I'm playing, let me just turn on a preset with some crunch so you can really hear the difference here. I'm going to go back to my custom blues crunch sound and I'm going to put that back in, because when you change preset it does remove the ins and outs as well. So let's just put re-guitar back in there. Now I'm going to change this into a humbucker. So this is my single coil. It adds that additional fatness that you get from a humbucker. There's a couple of different options, like a vintage humbucker, which is like a Filtertron, or a modern humbucker. That's really cool because it adds a bit more bite as well. We've got a bright humbucker. You can see there's a bunch of different options there. We've even got some jazz box pickups. You can hear that's got more of like a nasal quality because I'm playing with drive there. It's a much kind of more low-end emphasized pickup sound. I can also obviously turn my guitar into an acoustic. Now, in my current setup, I'm using obviously an amp. So I'm going to change the preset here. I'm going to go to let's go to a concert acoustic sound. So these acoustic presets already have re-guitar in because obviously it's making your guitar sound like an acoustic. But now I'm sounding like a modern dreadnought. And I should say the pickup choice on the guitar kind of affects the tone of the acoustic as well. You can also change the size of the body of the acoustic, so I can change the thickness. And the amount of that. So again, you can even kind of design your own sort of acoustic sounds there, because I can literally pick an acoustic sort of template. So I picked a triple O there, but I can decide how thick that triple O is or how bright that is. So again, very, very versatile. There's a lot of cool features there. So while this software, as I said, can do so much, it's really not that hard to get started with. As you've seen, you can dive in, grab a couple of presets, go into easy mode, and literally click some buttons. If you wanted to build your own preset really easily, from default, it loads nothing at all. So you can literally choose an amp. So you could come into the amp module, presets, classic amps, and pick your amp type. So I'm just going to pick a 4x10 clean Bassman, because that's an amp I quite like. So there's a really basic clean sound. Then I might just want to throw some pedals in. So I might want to throw in a crunch boost. I'm going to put the gain quite low here. I'm going to put a noise gate in the front just because it obviously just helps keep things in check. The gates are in the dynamic section. So just put a noise gate in there just to remove any hum. I'm going to throw in, I'll put in a blue drive as well. And I'm going to turn the output down slightly just because it's getting quite loud. I'll also throw in a fuzz as well, just because. It's quite a nice sounding fuzz, and I can also then change the order of these just by clicking and dragging. In the post effects, I'm going to put a chorus because I like a chorus. I want it to be quite slow. That sounds pretty good to me. I'm going to put in a phaser. Then I'm going to add a reverb as well. So I'm just going to use just a standard reverb. There is a bunch of different reverbs built in, including Blue Cat's Late Replies, which in itself is a really complicated but really cool program. So I'm just going to have, let's go for a guitar solo whole. That will do for now. Put that at the end of my chain. So there's a basic chain. So I'm just going to go back to easy mode now. And now I've built a rig. It's that simple and that quick. I didn't go into any major tweaking. I just literally picked the amp type I wanted and threw a few pedals at it. So I've literally got a bassman with a couple of pedals in front, and I can choose the order by just clicking and dragging them in the previous screen. So I have my clean sound. Now I can obviously change my EQ to do whatever I want now. So let's just dial in the sound that I want. So let's bring the mids back. Okay, so that is a basic sound I'm happy with. And then I can just add things in. So I can add a chorus in. Or I can put my fuzz in there. I can change my fuzz out for the blue drive. Or stack them up. Quite bright when we stack them up. And then I can just put some chorus on top of my drive. That is as easy as it is to build your own rig in Axiom. You don't need to be incredibly tech savvy or know everything about this program to get great results. You can literally just click a few buttons like I did right there and get some great sounds. So yeah, that is Axiom in a nutshell. There's a bunch of really in-depth things you can do, as you can imagine from some of the things we've talked about. You could go super in-depth with this, but you don't have to. And that really is the beauty, I think, of some of these amp suites, especially this one, is it's very, very easy to get great results. Now, I know, being someone that is very analog-minded, I have been put off sometimes by things that can do a lot more than I need them to do. because I think, well, I don't need all those features, so why would I go there? But that is, I think, looking at it from the wrong angle, because even if you are analog minded, there are some things this can offer you that are incredibly simple and incredibly versatile. Like, you could literally dial in a bunch of classic amp tones without needing to own those classic amps. And for someone who plays at home a lot, or someone who just likes a simple setup, doesn't get much more simple than a guitar and a cable with a plug-in. You can dial in some great tweed amp tones without upsetting your neighbors. And I think that's a really good way to look at this from an analog point of view, is that our favorite analog sounds come from playing very loud. And these days, that's not always very practical. But with this, we can be practical because we can get those crank tweed amp sounds without upsetting anyone. So yeah, if you are an analog-minded person, don't overlook plugins. I did for a long time, and kind of coming at it now with a fresh set of eyes, there are so many things that they do offer those of us that like these simpler approaches to guitar tone. If you want to check out Axiom, there are some links down below in the description. You can head over there and check it out. Price-wise, this retails at €249. So it's actually way cheaper than most guitar pedals that we would buy. And for that money, you get all of those amps, all of those pedals, and all that other functionality as well. It's such an in-depth program, but like I said, you don't need to know everything. You could literally start by building one preset, enjoy that preset and do some cool stuff with it. And then over time, learn more about the plugin, learn how it works, learn how to develop sounds. And over time, you can learn how to do all the crazy stuff with this. I don't even know all the crazy stuff this can do yet because I haven't dug that deep into it myself, because I'm also analog minded. I like to plug in and get a great sound. And that is as simple as it is to get a great sound. So if you've tried this thing out, I'd love to hear what you think about it down below in the comments. And if you haven't tried it out, but you're considering it, let me know what you think about some of the sounds in this video. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. Thank you so much for watching as always. While you're letting me know what you think about it, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button. There's some links down below in the description where you can check out Blue Cat Audio, so please go and check those guys out. They do a bunch of other cool products aside from Axiom as well, so even if you just head over to the website and check out the other stuff they do, there's probably something over there that will be quite interesting for you. So yeah, go and give that link some love. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you soon.